You know, whenever we talk about artificial intelligence in our schools, the conversation gets loud, and it gets loud fast. Is it this incredible new tool that's going to revolutionize learning? Or is it maybe the beginning of the end for the classroom as we know it? Okay, let's really get into this because the future of education is literally being written as we speak.
And this, right here, is the big one. It's the question that I think keeps a lot of educators and parents up at night. This deep-seated fear that the human connection, the very heart of learning, might get swapped out for an algorithm. But is that what's really on the table?
It feels like there are only two stories being told about AI in schools right now, and they're polar opposites. On one side, you've got all the hype, right? The idea that AI is some kind of magic bullet. And on the other side, there's the fear that it's a job killer that's just going to devalue what it means to learn from another human being. The truth, as we're about to see, is way more interesting, and it's somewhere in the middle.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to look at why education is at such a critical point. Then, we'll flip the whole debate on its head with a simple idea: addition, not subtraction. After that, we'll unpack a real playbook for doing this right, see where it's already working, and finally, wrap up with what this all means for a human-centered future.
So first up, education at a crossroads. To really get a grip on what AI could do, we have to understand the huge challenges that school systems are up against all over the world right now.
Just let this number sink in for a second. 44 million. That's how many new teachers UNESCO says the world will need by 2030 just to meet basic education goals. I mean, this isn't a small gap. It's a massive gulf, and it's hitting everyone from developing nations to the wealthiest ones.
Now here's where it gets really eye-opening, especially when we look at the teachers we already have. Data from the World Economic Forum shows teachers are putting in, on average, a 54-hour week. But get this, less than half of that time is spent actually teaching. The majority of their week is eaten up by lesson prep, grading, and all sorts of administrative work.
And that mountain of paperwork isn't just inefficient, it's a huge reason for burnout. The OECD reports that for almost half of all teachers, the #1 source of stress is, you guessed it, too much admin. And this is exactly where the conversation about AI starts to get really practical.
Okay, so with that problem clearly in mind, let's shift gears, because it sets the stage for a totally new way of thinking about this. Instead of seeing AI as something that replaces, experts are pushing us to see it as something that adds. Addition, not subtraction. And this quote from Harvard's assistant professor Ying Su, it just nails the new mindset. You know, so much of the fear is about what kids might lose if they use AI. But the real opportunity is about what we can add to their world.
So what does this additive approach actually mean? Well, it's not about just plopping kids in front of more screens. Not at all. It's about taking the time they already spend with media and making it richer, more interactive, and way more engaging, without ever taking away from that super valuable time with family, friends, or just, playing outside. And here's the crucial takeaway. Let me just say this plainly. The goal of AI is not to replace teachers. It's to take on all those routine, mind-numbing tasks that cause so much stress. This frees up educators to double down on the deeply human work that no algorithm could ever touch, building relationships, mentoring students, and giving them the social and emotional support they need. Okay, this brings us to what might be the most important piece of the whole puzzle, a playbook for doing AI responsibly. Because, look, having a powerful tool is one thing, knowing how to use it safely and effectively, well, that's everything. So, first, let's talk about the promise, because the potential here is absolutely massive. A study cited by the Brookings Institution found that an AI tutor could more than double the learning gains for students compared to what they get in a standard classroom. Think about that. Double. That's a total game changer. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? There's also a real peril here. Another experiment showed that when students were given unrestricted access to ChatGPT while practicing math, it actually hurt their learning. Their test scores went down by 17%. This just proves so clearly that how we use these tools is just as important as the tools themselves.
So how do we get the promise without the peril? Well, thankfully, there's a pretty clear 5-point playbook laid out by the Brookings Institution. We need
Transparency, so everyone knows when they're using AI. Accountability, so we can trace how decisions are made. A human in the loop. A focus on equity, so this helps everyone, especially those who need it most. And finally, continuous monitoring, so we can keep an eye on things and adjust.
And out of all of those, this human-in-the-loop idea is the non-negotiable. This isn't just about a teacher glancing over something. It's a true partnership. It means the AI literally pauses, like before it suggests a grade or a new lesson, and waits for a human teacher to review its work, make changes, and give the final, explicit okay. The professional judgment of a teacher stays right at the center of it all.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, right? But is anyone actually doing this? Is it more than just a bunch of ideas? Oh yeah. Let's look at how this is already happening in classrooms around the world today.
And you can see from these examples from the World Economic Forum, this stuff is taking off everywhere. First, let's head to Brazil. They have a program called Lutris that uses AI to give students instant feedback on their writing, and it's led to a huge boost in national exam scores. Then you've got Uruguay, where the SciBall program isn't just using AI, it's teaching kids about ethical AI in 80% of its public schools. And over in the UAE, a pilot for a personalized AI tutor has already shown a 10% jump in student learning. This is real.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together and talk about what this really means for the future of learning. A future that needs to be centered on humans.
All right, if you take away nothing else from this explainer, let it be these key points. First, AI is a tool, a powerful one, but it's not a teacher replacement. Second, the goal is enhancement, adding to the experience, not subtracting from it. Third, to get this right, we need a responsible playbook. Fourth, human oversight isn't just a nice idea, it's the most critical piece. And finally, equity can't be an afterthought. It has to be baked in from the very beginning.
So ultimately, it all comes down to this one final question. The transformation of our schools by AI. That's not really an if, it's a how. So the real question for all of us, for parents, teachers, everyone, is how are we going to choose to guide this change to build a future for learning that's more effective, more equitable, and most important of all, more human?